And good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to thegolfdirector.com, and this is Tech Talk with Al Cloyd. Dr. Grind is in the house. Dr. Grind, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And, of course, as always, we have our resident PGA past playing professional and current instructor out at South Carolina Golf Center, Mr. Hugh Roy III. How are you?
Good, George. Yourself?
Good, good. You look dapper today.
I'm trying to keep up with you. That's all.
You look sexy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
you're not
everybody
bad.
gets lucky every now and then.
With us today, we have a very special guest, and this is an individual I've been looking forward to really getting on and getting into the technology that he represents well on the tour and also to the amateur player, and that's Mr. Jamie Pipes. He is Director of TSPX Operations for UST and UST Shafts. And so, Jamie, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jamie's calling us from Louisiana, I think.
No, Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas.
That's
I had
all right.
that all wrong.
You're somewhere in the vicinity, but you're
I'm
a few
close.
area codes off.
I'm close, but that's fine.
That's all right.
That's fine. Jamie, thanks so much for taking the time to join us this morning. First off, you're Director of TSPX Operations. What the heck does that mean?
Well, TSPX is our kind of our R&D lab for new shafts, prototypes, and creating stuff for out on tour for the pros, and then we take it from there and bring it to the public, bring it to the market.
Okay, so basically what you're seeing out on the pro tours, then you're bringing it back into R&D and then putting it into play for the amateur player. Do I understand that right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we've been on your website, and again, UST, and we're at UST.com. You can go to USTMAMIYA.com, bring up of course, their home webpage, and then go under golf shafts. And we've been focusing here on the golfdirector.com, Jamie, for the past several weeks to months, and we've been doing some tests with different shafts, 6 irons and wedges, and a lot of buzz through our network specifically, but even around the amateur golf world, has been graphite shafts for irons. And so that's why it was very vital for us to get with you and talk about UST and the recoil product specifically. But take us through a little bit about the UST shafts for irons now and how that's so improved over the years.
Well, I've been with UST for almost 15 years now. And when I first started, I was in product development. My main task back then was to work with the engineers and take product out and let golfers of all levels test it. And one of the things that we started doing back then was trying to design a top graphite iron shaft, the best graphite iron shaft that we could possibly make.
Right.
And the recoil has been, it was a project back in 2007, so we've been working on this for 5 or 6 years now. And the technology behind it is really in the butt end. We designed it so that the butt end will load and unload more efficiently. And the best comparison is to some of our older style graphite, where when we tried to get the weight up in graphite, the wall thickness got so thick and so stiff that it was dead. It didn't bend or load or oval or do anything. So it felt dead in the butt end.
Right. And
the only place that it bent or flexed was in the tip end.
I hate it when the butt end feels dead. There's no doubt about it. I hate that.
So the tip end was the only place it flexed, and you'd either hit a floater or
Right.
you'd hit a flyer.
Right.
And that was the biggest complaint that we got on our older style graphite.
So that led to, if I get you right, back in 2007, you started playing with the recoil type of design. And explain a little bit about the specifics of the UST graphite shaft. And I believe you have, 17 or 19 different layers?
Well, the different layers are used to create different weights. But like I said, we use a different design layup in the butt end to make the wall thinner, to where they will actually, and it's called ovaling. It's the hoop flex in the butt end. everybody, all of us have seen golfers when they swing and the heads go in one direction and the hands start going the other way and the shaft bends.
Right.
Well, that causes the shaft to oval if you look at the cross-section at that point in time.
Right.
And that's what is the energy of the shaft, is when that shaft bends and then it kicks back to its original position. Well, in the graphite shaft and the iron shaft, nobody has come up with a way to make the butt end do that, and we finally figured out how to do it.
Okay.
And it performs better than steel.
And when you say that, Jamie, what does that mean?
Well, the carbon fiber material in itself transfers energy, more efficiency. I mean, if you just laid out carbon fibers and steel material, and you just measured how it transfers energy, through vibration, it transfers it. Carbon fiber is more efficient than steel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you put it in a golf shaft, and you start loading the shaft where it bends and then it returns back to a shape. It's even more efficient that way. But and that's kind of technical talk. To me, it boils down to the golfer being able to control their trajectory.
Okay.
And coming from me, from the standpoint of someone that's used it for years now, and seeing how the development has occurred and the changes and whatnot, the way I tell people, and I'm very simple when it comes to this, and you know that, Jamie, is the fact that, it's giving you the same, if not better result than steel. But the beauty of it is your mishits, there's no reverb. There's no vibration through you like it is with steel. So, basically, it's helping joints as well, just because of like you said, it absorbs a lot of that excess vibration.
Right, exactly.
Well, years past, Jamie, and Al and I have had this conversation several times over in his fitting area. But years past, the graphite shaft, of course, came automatic in every driver, every fairway wood, and now hybrids. But the graphite shaft and the iron was just not market accepted for the amateur player. When he went into the big box retailer, he saw 4 sets of irons by a particular manufacturer, and they all had steel shafts. And those steel shafts were either regular or they were stiff. And you kind of made your selection based off of that. And just here recently has been the push to get clubs fitted exactly for what your swing speed is, for what your height, your hands, what kind of swing do you have, things of that sort. But again, the graphite shafts in the irons were just not an accepted product because of, like you said earlier, do you get a balloon, or do you get, is the head not able to keep up with the mid break point or the butt end, or
it was all about the torque in the past. It had too much torque, and that's what Jamie, when he explained that, they've taken. But there was also too, Hugh, and Al, I've expressed this to you. There was the suggestion and the problem with reliability. I mean, literally,
Consistency. Inconsistency.
Yeah, I've seen graphite shafts and irons to where with the wedges, of course, you're coming down on the ball, you're descending on the ball. You're some people, they'll lay a roll of carpet, with every wedge shot, and so thusly, all of a sudden, am I breaking the fibers in that graphite shaft every time I do that? And so, am I looking for that head to come flying off after I hit 100 shots? So, that's the questions that the amateur have.
Well, I totally agree with you. In the stores, that you had a big discrepancy in steel shafts and the graphites that were offered. Okay,
in pricing.
In the stock graphites that were offered in the irons in the stores, they're much lighter, much higher torque, and they were not a good fit for you guys that could swing 90 miles and higher.
Good putt. Yeah, good point.
So,
I like that. Good putt.
So a big difference, and that was the consistency factor. It just didn't fit that player profile.
Right.
Every now and then you had a golfer that was the right swing speed that graphite shaft would fit. But nowadays, I think you see a lot of golfers that are getting older, but that are still very, very good players, single-digit handicaps, and still want the shaft to perform. So in our recoil, we offer a range of 60-gram shafts up to 125-gram models. So there again, the being fit part of it is all important.
Very, very crucial.
Okay, just to remind everyone, we're on the air with Mr. Jamie Pipes, who is Director of TSPX Operations for UST Shafts. Again, I would suggest if you're listening to us or watching us, go to their website, ustmamiya.com, and go under irons and follow along with us here. We're going to start breaking down the different shafts. Jamie, just bear with me for a minute. You've got the Recoil product line, which is Recoil 95, 110, and 125. Then you've got the Recoil 95 prototype through 125 prototype. Then you've got the Recoil 800 series, the Recoil 650 through 680. Then you've got the ProForce RV2 Gold, the 75 model, and the 95. Then you have the MP6, the IRN, and the Competition Series. Okay, my eyes have just glazed over, and I fell off my stool here at the broadcast studio.
Massive confusion.
Which one of these? I mean, if I'm going to break it down for you, Jamie, and I hope this helps. If I'm a scratch golfer up to a 7, let's say, if I'm an 8 to 15, and if I'm above, which of these shafts should I be looking at?
Yeah, well, what was the first category?
Just say a scratch golfer. Okay. Like for me right now, I'm an 8 handicap at 51 years old.
Excuse me.
First of all, being a PGA professional also, I recommend that everybody go see their PGA Pro and see about getting fit properly.
Good answer. And then the next best option is we have a network of dealers that are TSPX dealers and fitters in the marketplace. You can locate the top fitters in the country on our website via our dealer locator. That's a little plug for them. But And I try to visit with people all day long over the phone or via internet and try to help them with finding the right shaft. But it still doesn't take the place of being fit. Right.
With that said, and you're a scratch golfer, okay, the first question I would ask you is, I got to get to know what you're playing now. What's in your clubs right now?
Good question.
He's asking you
equipment evaluation.
What's in your clubs?
I've got Dynamic Golds.
Okay.
S300s.
S300. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a great deal of success. I recommend a little bit lighter shaft with the recoils. Okay.
Okay.
So the first, I would put you in about 100. The Dynamic Golds weigh about 125 grams. 120, 125.
Okay.
I would put you in 110 in the prototype because the torque is about the same as a Dynamic Gold.
Okay.
And we do the same flex. We do an F4, which is stiff. And that's what I'd have you try first.
Okay.
So we noticed that your system, you don't use A, R, S. You have basically, the F1, the F2, F3, F4, and F5. Could you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, that goes back to my old Hogan days when...
I kind of thought, yes, Apex.
Apex 3 was a regular, Apex 4 was a stiff. So
Gotcha.
F is just the flex.
Yes,
so
sir.
F1 is ladies. F2 is seniors. F3 is regular. F4 is stiff. F5 is extra stiff.
Big boy shafts.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Because that's what I got.
That's right.
I love them. I tell you, for the folks to understand one thing, I've used them. Jamie and I have known each other for, 25 years now or something ridiculous. Way too long. And, I've still got my grinds that Mr. Shealy did for me before he passed away. They're still sitting in the garage with the Apex 5s in them with the leather grips. So I've kept those for years. But this shaft I've used for a long time going through Jamie, and we've talked about it and stuff. And I tell you that just the performance and the consistency of it is unbelievable. I mean, it's just, you would think it would be weak feeling, but yet it's not.
Exactly.
And then you would think, well, it might be boardy feeling, but it's not. And it gives you such a great trajectory and feel. Changing shots and working the ball is simple or easier than doing it with steel.
Jamie, if you're looking at junior clubs and things like that, where would our junior listeners be looking at? Is that down in the 650 bracket to 680, or what are we looking at there for junior players?
I do it all based on their speed.
Okay.
Okay. And juniors are tough because they need to be checked at least every 6 months for their speed and their equipment, because they're growing and they're getting stronger and they're getting faster.
Right.
And they can outgrow whatever they have in their hands really, really fast.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, start with the lighter spectrum and then work up. When they're and I'll use a young man as an example. When he gets strong enough, I put something heavier in his hands as fast as possible, because I want him to develop into the stronger speed and get the club in the right positions as he swings. So.
Now, what about for the ladies? Again, should they go back to the recoil product, or should they move into something else?
The recoil, the product that you listed from our website, some of that is older product. The recoil has the latest and the greatest. So I mean, that is what I'm putting everybody into. I believe in it that much. So, but for a young lady, still, if I'm fitting her, I'm still basing it on her speed.
Okay.
The club doesn't know who's swinging it. It's depending on the forces being put on it. So.
Tempo.
And again, that would be also too, Jamie, for the elderly lady players. Would you suggest likewise just to check the speed or their swing tempo, things of that sort?
Yeah, even us old men. So
yeah,
it's all based on speed, because I mean, like I said, it just depends on how the person swinging a club, whether they can load it or not. You got to find the right weight and the right flex that'll allow them to do that, so the shaft will help them instead of work against them.
And that's where it comes back to what you were saying. It's just important to go get fitted and find out what exactly is going on so you can get the right product in your hand.
Al, now Hugh, what's your club head speed or with an iron at impact?
I would say last time we looked at it, it was around 113, 115, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Somewhere right in that neighborhood.
Okay, so
that's a driver.
Okay, so you use the Recoil 125, is that right?
Yes, I use the 125 F5.
Okay.
Yeah.
F5.
Mm-hmm.
So
we did soft step them though. So basically, we put a 3-iron shaft in a 4-iron, 2-iron and a 3-iron, that kind of thing, to soften them up just a touch.
Just a touch.
Okay.
So it's kind of an in-between.
And that's why it's so important to spend your time with a qualified club maker that knows, what's going on in the industry, because one shaft can play 3 different ways as far as flex, just whether you can firm tip them, soft tip them, or go with the factory tipping specifications. So you can actually break down flexes in between flexes. So if you've got somebody that's in between a regular and a stiff, we can hit that frequency. If we've got somebody that's between a S and a X, that's no problem as well. The manufacturers, the quality's gotten a lot higher, so it gives us the ability to hit the numbers that we're looking for.
Real quick, Jamie, question I have is, okay, I'm going to get a set of the Recoil UST shafts, and I'm going to put them in my irons. Do I need to consider specific shafts for the wedges, or just what you guys send me?
We have a wedge shaft, and we design each shaft in the recoils and the taper tips for each club. Okay, so there's a wedge-specific shaft. They're all constant weight, so like 110 is all right at 110 grams. But the 9-iron is 110, the 8-iron, 7-iron, on up. Each shaft's designed for each specific club.
Okay.
And actually, the recoil technology came about back when the rules changed for the wedges, the groove rule.
Okay.
So we designed a wedge shaft specifically when the rules changed for the wedges. And that's where the recoil technology really kind of came about.
Ah, okay.
To get to produce a little more spin that they had lost from the groove technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that do? Does that produce a little bit more kick at impact point, or what,
no,
what are they looking for there?
Actually, in the wedges, it launched a little bit lower and spun a little bit more. So.
Okay, all right, I got
Spin.
you.
Yeah.
Spin.
Okay.
But the wedge shaft and all the recoils works, as well as the other shafts. So I put the wedge shaft in my irons too. And we have some guys they'll do something like they'll put a 95 in their iron set, and the wedges they'll put 110 just to give the wedges a little more weight. So so it'll go through the bunkers and the rough and stuff.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, the technology behind the shaft it's pretty amazing. I mean, he's talked to me about it. You know me, it just goes right over my head. But it's pretty amazing to listen to how they've done all the different layers and created the weights and the flex points and whatnot. So it's
the misnomers that someone like me, old school golf, about graphites and irons. I think over the last several weeks we've definitely dispelled all this. There's no doubt about it. I mean,
well, yeah, and we look at it too. I mean, for goodness gracious, how long now? Almost 10 years. Everybody's accepted graphite in their driver and their fairways and their hybrids has gotten better and better. And they're still playing steel in their irons. So.
Yeah, and that led to our conversation is, why is that? I mean, it's because basically that's what the market has shoved down our throat. And, when we as amateur players walk into the big box stores, that's what we see. I mean, we see steel shafts in those. Now, we can buy graphite shafts, but I think it's funny because it's $300 or $400 or $500 more for graphite shaft irons as a group, as a collection.
It's a more expensive product, no question about it.
But the point is that's with that particular brand of graphite that they've put in there. That doesn't mean that's the right one for you.
No, it does not. No, absolutely.
And also, it's a speed thing too. You see all the top players in the world out on the tours playing steel. Majority of steel. Well, they're swinging faster than anybody on the planet, so they need a stiffer and heavier product to make it perform. They want it the way they want it to perform.
Right.
Well, not everybody in the marketplace can swing like they do. That's why it's so important. You may be able to get the same brand they do, but you need to be fit for something that fits you.
Probably a little lighter and a little more flex.
Yeah. I mean, Jamie, we talk about this on the air quite often, and we have for the last year and a half, that the professionals out there, whether it's the women, the men, the champions, it doesn't matter. They're 1% of 1% of the golfing population.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you don't design products for the 1% of 1%. If you did, you wouldn't be in business. This is for the amateur golfer out there, the 25-plus million players that are out there, and we're just looking at this technologically to say, okay, amateur player, there's no reason to go out and say, oh, I've got dynamic S400s or I've got X stiff, then no, steels in my irons, and oh, look at me, aren't I great, but I can't turn the ball over, I can't hit it straight, everything balloons out right, the club's too short for me, the club's too long for me, this, that, and the other. And, we're just sitting here trying to dispel the facts of graphites should be, if not a first consideration, they should be a primary consideration for irons.
I have to agree.
And so thusly, that's why we've made it a mission to, study the graphite shafts that are out there, including the hybrids. We've looked at the hybrids also.
That's great.
And half steel, half graphite, however you want to look at it. And then to report back to our listeners, and we're going to be doing that very soon. Actually, I believe we're waiting on some UST shafts. Is that right?
Yes, I think there's maybe one or two shafts that we're waiting on.
Okay. All right. But again, we're putting them in 6-iron and wedges, 56-degree wedges for our listeners. And then Al will be combining all the numbers, and we'll be coming back on several shows in the future and reporting on those findings and letting our amateur listeners from around the globe know exactly what they can look for when it comes to using these shafts and then putting these shafts in their bag for everyday use. And now we know, and now we've learned over these last several shows, Hugh, it's not just short-term use.
Oh, no.
It's very long-term use.
It is. And again, that's one of the reasons why, I wanted to talk to you so much about getting Jamie on here and letting him talk about the UST stuff, because I'm just such a big fan of it.
You are. You are a big fan.
I'm a very loyal fan with it, and it's a product that I feel is as good as anything out there.
Yeah, when you and I were birthed about a year ago, from the same mother, you showing me the recoil shafts from that point.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning process for me because I'm very much old school,
Oh, you are. And the funny part is, Jamie, he's hitting my wedges, with the wedge shaft in there, and he's like, wow, I keep thinking this thing's going to jump straight up in the air, and it comes out, and it's just, you can control the ball flight with a wedge, and George is like, And I think this is kind of where all of it started when we played that one day.
Right. So, Jamie, again, we're waiting for the UST product, I understand from Al, but I guess you guys right now are just slammed by a couple of the manufacturers that are including your product in on their delivery schedule. So, I understand you guys are just busier than a one-armed coat hanger right now.
Yeah, we're selling it as fast as we can make it.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I think one thing I'd like for the listeners to know about UST, which is United Sports Technologies, is I like them because they have different price shafts on the market. They have shafts for your beginners or your budget-minded people, and that's a UST competition series. And then they've got all their exotic stuff for your, for the better players. So I really like that about your company.
Well, thank you.
Well, plus two, we haven't even touched on the hybrid shafts. We haven't touched on the fairway metals, the
Multiple
drivers,
shows.
And you've even got putter shafts, which is
that filtered, that thing's
the
awesome.
frequency filter.
The frequency filter.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I'm going to have to try that one
It's
day,
ridiculous.
too. Jamie Pipes from UST, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and I'd like to invite you back again. I'd like to continue this.
Definitely.
It's definitely
Sure, I'd be glad to.
it's definitely educational for us. It's, I hope, educational for our listeners from across the globe that love this game, and as we do. And we're going to bring you more and more information on this product line specifically for the irons, because I feel, for one, that is a quote-unquote piece of our golf merchandise that is sorely left alone. A lot of people want to look at the heads and all this other stuff and which head flies farther, and I laugh when I hear an amateur player say, oh man, I'm killing this 5-iron, 10 yards farther than I hit the other one. And I asked him, I say, well, what's the difference in shafts? And they get the glazed look and then they pass out. So, they have no clue. And when in actuality, it was probably the shaft that was helping them more than the head was.
Yes.
So, again, Jamie, thanks so much for your time. And please come back and join us again when you have a few moments.
You bet, I'd love to.
All right, this has been
Thank
Hugh
you.
Roy III, of course, with George Honeycutt, and we're just here caddying for Dr. Grind, Mr. Al Cloyd. This has been Tech Talk with Al Cloyd here on thegolfdirector.com. And, of course, check this out on TGD TV on demand, and also, too, you can listen to it in our audio podcast files on thegolfdirector.com. And all this is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com.